Hey everyone. So, as you all know, unless you don't, I played in my first ever rated chess tournament last month in a place called New Westminster outside Vancouver. I played in one of the lower rating sections in the tournament. There were higher rating sections, but since it was my first tournament and I was unrated, I decided I'd go for the lower. I think it was the second lowest rating, which is under 1200. My opponent was a guy called Jason. I won't give his full name just in case there's some weird privacy law I'd be breaking. Um, the time control of the game was 90 minutes, so we had 90 minutes each, plus 30 seconds every time you made a move. So there's a lot of time to think and to try to figure the position out when you're playing. Just a few things to explain before I start showing you the game. So on the top left corner, there's a little engine. It does an analysis mode. So it shows kind of the best moves in the position, and the light will turn green or red or yellow depending on whether the computer likes the move that was just made. Uh, any evaluation above 0 is good for white, and anything below 0 is good for black. And generally, you're looking if it's more than -1 or +1, that's generally a winning advantage where one side should win. So if it says at some point +1 for white, that means white has a more than a one pawn advantage, and generally you kind of say that would be pretty decisive advantage. What I want to do here is just kind of fly through the game and kind of show you two key positions that happened where it was quite complicated. And it'd be interesting for anybody who's kind of learning how to play chess or trying to pick it up, the kind of positions that you might come across in a game. So my opponent opened with d4, and I played knight f6. He played bishop f4, which develops a piece, but it doesn't really press for an advantage. Generally, you'd want to kind of push the c pawn when your opponent plays knight f6. So I was expecting him to play c4 to try to gain more control of the center. But since he didn't do that, I played d5. So now playing c4 is less good because I'll just take it. So he played e3 instead, which is a solid bishop f5, c3, and e6. So I noticed in this position, after he played knight f3, that all of our pieces are quite symmetrical. So if I highlight these ones here, these pawns and these pieces, they're all directly mirroring each other. And the only one difference in the position so far is this pawn here, the green pawn on c3. So he's moved that pawn one space, and it's my turn to move. So I figured if he's going to play passive and not press for an advantage and just play solid and not do anything, I'll probably have a good advantage if I play in the center and try to break the center open. So I played c5, and this attacks the center. And the computer actually doesn't really love this move. It's the kind of orange light flicked on there for a second, and now it's green, now it's orange again. So there's probably better moves out there according to the computer, but the computer just plays perfectly and finds the best move everywhere. From my point of view, this was better because I'm playing more aggressively, and generally when you do that, you tend to get an advantage. So he just developed a piece. I developed a piece as well, and he played queen a4. This pins my knight, so now my knight can't move. I can try to move it, but it requires a lot of cheating, and also the computer just won't let me. So because it's pinned to my king. So I just played a6. I'm ready to play b5 and kick his queen away if I ever need to. He played knight to e5, and this puts a lot of pressure on my knight here. So now my knight is attacked twice. It's only defended once by my pawn. So I defended my knight again. I played queen to b6. Now my queen defends my knight. It also throws a punch at his b2 pawn. So he defended his b2 pawn by playing b3. Now his b2 pawn is defended. I played bishop e7. He played bishop e2, and we both castled. So at this stage of the game, we've both got most of our pieces out. We've both castled. So kings are quite safe here. We've all got our minor pieces out. If I highlight his ones here, his 4 minor pieces and his queen is out, same at mine. So at this stage of the game, what you want to do is bring your rooks into the center, or put your rooks on better squares, or else try to gain some space and make your pieces more active. A general principle I like to play by is just to try to move every piece once in the opening, and if I haven't moved a piece yet, to prioritize trying to move it. So I played rook to c8, and this puts my rook on this file here. is in the center, and the idea I have is that at some point I want to play c captures on d4, and then if he captures with his c pawn here, I've got a lovely open file for my rook. And if he captures with the e pawn, then by the end of that he'll have one pawn in the center, he'll have this pawn, and I'll have two pawns in the center, and two pawns is better than one in the center. And here he played bishop to g5, so as I just said, you don't want to move the same piece twice if you can help it at all. But he moved his bishop to f4, and then now he's moved it to g5, and he hasn't moved his rooks. But the reason he played this is because he sees a tactic, and this is kind of the first position I want to talk about. You'll notice in this position that his knight is eyeing up d7, and if his knight can get to d7, it'll land a fork on my rook and my queen here, so that wouldn't be good. But at the moment my knight here is defending d7, so if he plays knight to d7 now, I just take it. Unfortunately for him, his tactic doesn't work, as we'll see in a second. But he tried to do attack. He tried to play knight to d7 anyway, so he did something called removing the guard. So as discussed, my knight is defending the square here on d7. So after I played d captures on c4, he took my knight, with the idea of playing knight to d7. So I recaptured, and now he played knight to d7. And unfortunately for him, I'd seen this variation, and I knew he couldn't really play this, as we'll find out. So I just played queen back, because my queen's attacked. So I'll lose my queen if I don't move it, so I moved my queen. And he played knight captures on f8, and if you look at the top left corner, you see the red light goes on, and it says minus 2.5, which is kind of strange. I bet when he saw this position, or when he was doing his analysis back in this position, when he played this capture, he saw up to this position, but he didn't see my next move. He just assumed I'd capture with the king. Sorry, not that. He just assumed I'd capture with the king or the rook. And 99% of the time, when somebody captures your piece, you just capture it back. So he thought in this position that he captured my rook, and yet he's only losing a knight. A rook is better than a knight, so he's going to be better. But I played a move he didn't see. I played d captures on c3, and now both of his knights are hanging. And more importantly, this pawn on c3 is really, really powerful. It's passed, which means there's no pawns opposing it, and it's so powerful it just turned red by itself. That's incredible. So basically, to stop this pawn from queening, you need to give away a lot of material, and he just didn't see this. So I think in this position he actually still thought he was okay, because on the surface, after he plays knight captures on e6, he's going to lose that knight anyway, so he just decided he'd take a pawn for it. And after he moved his knight, I think in his head he's still up, he still captured my rook for his knight, and pawns I have one extra pawn, so basically I have a knight. I have a knight and a pawn for his rook here. But in this position, the knight and the pawn are much, much better than the rook, particularly the pawn. And the reason is because after he retreats after he played knight to f3, after he played this knight to f3, I play c2, and this opens a discovered attack between the rook and the bishop, so he has to move his rook. And in this position, I played probably the worst move I played in the first 4 games of the tournament. And the reason I played it is because I wanted to improve my attacking prospects. But in this position, what I should just play is bishop to b2, with the idea that if he doesn't move his rook, I capture his rook, which is good. And if he does move his rook, which this is the only square he can move it to, well, then I have this cool tactic of knight to b4. He pretty much has to take it because it's hanging, and then I get bishop c4, bishop c3 with an attack on his queen and his rook. He has to save his queen because he doesn't want to lose his queen, but he needs both of his rooks on the back rank to stop me from making a queen. So after he moves his queen, I simply capture his rook, he captures, and I make a queen. And then, believe it or not, this may be incredible to hear, but having 2 queens is really good. So after he trades off all the pieces here, check, and check again, he basically has to play bishop to f1. It's the only really move that makes sense. Then after I played my bishop to d3, his bishop's pinned and it's attacked twice. The only way to defend it is knight to d2, but then after rook to d1, he can't move his knight because he gets checkmated. And if he does move his knight, he loses his knight. So there's nothing he can do here. He's just totally losing here. Yeah. So after he plays, sorry. Yeah. So that's why I should have played bishop to b2 just to make that variation work. Instead, I played a move that stops bishop b2. Played knight to e5, and the reason I played knight to e5 is because my knight isn't very good on c6. It's much better on e5. I figured, once my knight gets d5, I can capture his knight with check if I want to. I can play knight to d3, which would attack his rook here and control the queenie square. But unfortunately, this stops my bishop going to b2, and now he can save the position. He was losing, if you remember, he was minus 2.5. You can save the position now if he plays knight to d4. The computer says after knight to d4, the best I can do is play queen to c3. And then he can actually just capture the pawn, because he's got tricks where my rook can't leave the back row or else it's checkmate. So if we just do something kind of natural looking, for example, if I capture the knight and try to trade off all the pieces, he can play bishop d1 here. There's not really much I can do. I'm losing this bishop now. So the computer could suggest queen to c7, retreating my queen, and then he just plays rook to c2, or rook captures on c2, and in this position, it says he's got an advantage because he has 2 rooks and I have only 1 rook and a knight, so he'd be doing very well in this position. But unfortunately for him, he didn't find knight to d4. He played a really bad move, and a move that probably would only work in a very fast game, like a 1-minute game or a 2-minute game, where you're trying to find tricks and trying to trick your opponent. He played bishop d1, and his idea when he played bishop d1 is he thought my pawn here is pinned on c2 because his rook is attacking my queen through the pawn, so I can't move that pawn because he'll take my queen. And if I just play the obvious variation, say I capture his bishop here, but then he's got rook captures on c7, takes my queen, and now I've got issues because my second queen is attacked and my rook is hanging with check, and it leads to eventual checkmate if I let him take my rook. So the best move according to the computer here is just to take his rook with my queen and give up my other queen, and then move my rook to b8, it says, which is a really bad looking move. And he's +5, he's totally winning because he's got 2 bishops, I've got 2 bishops and he's got a queen, and the rest of the material is equal, so I'm just totally losing here if I play this. But I didn't play, after he played bishop d1, since my queen is lined up with the rook, I just simply moved the queen. And now he played a move I don't understand, and I still don't understand it, and I never will understand it. And if anybody wants to try to explain it to me, they can. Right here, he should just move his bishop away. His bishop's attacked. I didn't fall for his trick where, my queen is lined up with his rook. So now his rook is just lined up with my rook. So if I could move again, I would just take his bishop, and he doesn't have any tricks because he's just capturing my rook, not my queen, and I can recapture easily enough. But here he just played b4. Instead of moving his bishop, he just played b4, which doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't do anything. I suppose it attacks my pawn, but now after I just take his bishop and he recaptures, now, and after I trade off these knights with check, now the material is just massively in my favor. So if we compare the pieces, we both have the rook, we both have a queen, but I've got 2 bishops for his rook, and 2 bishops is better than a rook, so I'm just going to win here. So what I want to do from this position is simplify down and make basically put my bishops, get them working, get them into the game, and win the game out easily enough. So I played bishop h3. I want to checkmate him, and this cuts off all the escape squares for his king. So now he can't go anywhere. He can only go to h1, which I'm happy if he goes there. He played rook to c5. So I traded off a piece, he recaptured, and I played bishop e5. And here he played f4, so I played a cool move here. I played a h6 because he can't capture my my bishop here. His pawn's overworked. It's defending both of these squares. So, for example, if he takes my bishop, well then that gives me the opportunity to play queen to d5 with check. And now the only move king h1 and queen g2 is checkmate. So you can't capture my bishop. So instead he played f3, and this gives an escape square to his king. So now he actually can capture my bishop because I don't have that same checkmate. It's nearly checkmate. I have a few checks where it's one move he has, but it's not checkmate, and he'd actually be nearly, I think, back in a drawing position if I let him capture my bishop. So I move my bishop. Here he played rook to b1, attacking my pawn. I defended my pawn. And he played c6, attacking my pawn again. So I traded off the pawns. And here I played queen to a6, because I want to checkmate him. I have a check available here on e3, and if his rook ever leaves the back row, I've got a check on the back row here, which would be devastating for him. He would just get checkmated. And when I play queen to a6, I'll let him play these two checks. I'll let him play a rook to b8 check, and then queen to c2 check. And that might kind of worry people if you're in a winning position and you don't want to take any risks. You don't want to let your opponent check you. But I calculated all this out, so I knew that bishop f5 was just totally fine for me. I'm now attacking his queen, so he defended his queen, or he blocked the diagonal. And here it was pretty simple from here on out, because now I can start checking his king. So I played queen to e3 check. He moved his king. I captured a pawn. He defended his f3 pawn, but I captured it anyway with check. Notice how it's check. He captured with the queen, and his idea here is that if I capture his queen here, and he recaptures with the king, then he's got two bishops versus a rook, which is still very winning for me. But maybe he just thought this would be kind of a draw because he thought a rook was good enough to beat two bishops. But here, if you want to pause the video and not look at the left hand side where it shows you the best move, there's just a simple tactic here. So anyone who's trying to get started in chess, these are just good little things to see. You'll notice in this position that his king and his queen are lined up on this diagonal here. And when pieces are lined up, diagonally or vertically or horizontally, often there's tactics available. So I just played bishop to e4 here, and this attacks his queen, and his queen can't move because it's pinned to his king. So if he tries to capture my queen, the computer won't let him, or if he tries to move it anywhere. So the only move he can really play is capture my bishop. I thought he'd actually resign here because now he's just down a queen, and he's in check. So he doesn't really have anything to do here, and I've got an extra bishop as well, which is nice. But he played on. He let me checkmate him, which was nice of him. So I played queen to e3, and in this position there's checkmate in 2. So again, if you want to pause your video and not look on the left hand side, see if you can find checkmate in 2. Yeah. So the winning move, or the checkmate in 2, is you play h5. This attacks his king, so you sacrifice the pawn, and then queen to h3 is checkmate. And if you don't like that, queen to e2 is also checkmate. So that was the first game. I was pretty happy after this game, obviously, because I wasn't sure what the level was going into the tournament. I knew the ratings. I knew his rating, which is 850, which is around the beginner level, but I wasn't quite sure, where my level was at more. And more importantly, it's hard to know just by somebody's rating how good they are, because sometimes people have ratings that they had from a long time ago and they don't play often. And maybe this guy had a low rating from a long time ago and practiced a lot and played in a lot of maybe faster tournaments or online, and then came in and as a much better player. So I was happy enough to win this game, and it was the first game on the first day. So that was a good start for me. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and hope you found it instructive. I'm going to try to make videos for the rest of the games if possible. There were 6 games total in the tournament. I'm sure most of you know, if you're following my Instagram, how I did overall, but if you don't know, I'll just try to let it reveal as the videos go on. I'm also playing in a tournament for the next 5 Sundays starting tomorrow, in a kind of a higher rating tournament. So this tournament I played here in the video was under 1200, so it's kind of around the beginner level. I'm playing in a tournament starting Sunday which is under 1400, which is kind of like slightly more intermediate, be a slightly higher caliber of players. So it'll be interesting to see where my level is at compared to the higher rated players. And there's also a small chance I'll be playing in the open section where there are much higher rated players that will probably kill me. Not just on the board, but actually, kill me in real life. That's how good they are. But it'd be interesting to play those guys and see how I fare up against them and how I measure up. And even if I lose, it'll be a good learning experience. So yeah, thanks for following my progress, and I'll keep you updated as my games go on. Right? Thanks very much.